Okay, so therefore, black has to play something else. And after f4, he takes in f4. And now we'll have some pieces that will be changed, on the E file with more or less an equal game, even game.
Yeah.
Nobody is better, but it seems that white has still a very small initiative. So knight f3, knight g5. Now he takes in b2, no? Queen takes and knight g7. Now this is very important because you have to control the square from e6. If the knight comes to e6, then it's almost bad for black. But as long as you control the square from e6, black has an even game. No problem, here. So you have to, he puts again the pieces on the central position, and now you have to show that your plan was right, that the opponent has nothing or almost nothing. The game
But
is even again.
but this knight is not
Then
out of the game here.
No, later on he'll become active, you'll see. Therefore, I told you that the move b6 was very important. B6 controls the square, the knight is defended, and later on you can move the knight to b7, and that's okay. So knight has to retreat because if he puts the knight in e6, he loses a pawn. He has very small initiative, but pawn is too much. So knight f3, and now you have time to trade the two rooks. And now rook e8, knight c3, you take there, a6 of course, rook e3, and now you have time to play b5, knight d1. Here already, instead of knight d1, white had the possibility to go wrong. I mean, he could take in e8, no? Rook takes e8, queen takes e8, yeah? And it seems that, the mistake was knight take b5, trying to win a pawn. But if he plays knight takes b5, he's lost immediately. You take in b5, he takes in a5, and after queen e2 check, he can resign.
Because he
He
loses
loses the knight, and the king is almost mated, also. So that was a very big mistake. Of course, he didn't play, no?
Yeah.
But it was the small trap already, from black.
Yeah.
Okay, so here after b5, the game is okay for black. Black has a very good game without any problem. But nobody is better still. The game is even, more or less.
Yes.
Yeah. Knight b7, as I told you, you retreat the knight, but you control all the squares. And the most important thing is to control the square d6. The pawn from d6 is defended, very well defended. Okay, so white has to do something. Knight b2. He tries to come to a better position with the knight,
Maybe here on c4, right?
No, well, you don't take in c4. If you take in c4, it's clear that white is better. So he wants to come to d3, maybe. We'll see. So now you have time to take in e3 and trade queens also. That is also very nice. Now the game is completely even. If you trade queens, nobody is better, and we'll play. We'll see what happens. So, okay, knight e8, we come with the knight in f6. The knight in f6 will be a little bit more active, Knight f6, you have the possibility to come to e4 later. And now he plays to d1, and we close the queen side, and we have a very small initiative later on, maybe, with the idea a4, a5, a4, and knight a5, later on. We'll see if it's possible to do this. Black has an idea, to come. We'll see what happens lately, in the game. So, knight e4. From now on, we try to give the impression that he has still a tactical chance to sacrifice a piece in f5 with a very strong initiative. But it's also an impression because it's not good to sacrifice the knight, So, okay, knight e4, knight h4. He tries to put the knights on the good squares. King f7, of course. And now
Oh, he
he
sacrificed already.
sacrificed. We were both of us in time trouble, a little bit tired, both of us. And he had an impression that everything is okay. And black has some problems. But
So something like winning 3 pawns, or what
yeah,
was
he wants to win 3 pawns. If he has time to win the third pawn, white
Yes.
is clearly better. But he has no time, and the end game is completely lost for white. For one tempo, we'll see. Everything will be very clear later
Yeah, because
on.
it seems this knight
It
will hang
seems that, yeah,
after.
that is the impression,
Yeah.
So you take in f5, he takes in f5, and now simply knight back. And now what happens? If he takes the third pawn in h6, he's lost immediately. After king g6, he loses the knight.
Oh, yes.
That is the,
Yeah.
the idea.
So if he takes,
So he realized that
if he takes this, he loses the
king
knight.
g6, and he loses the knight. I mean, he loses the knight. He has to play g4 now. But after g4, you take the knight. He gives check in g5. You play back to g6, and the endgame, every endgame is completely lost for white. This is completely lost because you have the knight from b7, and it's completely lost. You control the squares, and Zugzwang, and white is completely lost.
Yeah.
So okay, he realized this, but it was too late. So from now on,
He did a sacrifice.
he sacrificed, and that after knight f6, you have to show how you can win with black. Okay, it was a mistake from him to take, but okay, it happens. It's a very, very hard fight. For both of us. So now he has to try to demonstrate that the two pawns still there are very good compensation against the piece. But it's not the case. The piece is much stronger,
It's a piece.
And we have some special positions where we can get a Zugzwang, So it will happen in our game also. So knight e3, a5.
So the solution.
We give him the move.
Mm-hmm.
In any position in one, later on, he'll have one move less, and black will have one move more for him, and that extra move wins in all kinds of positions. It's very instructive. We'll see. Finally,
so you give a chance to white to make another mistake now.
No, he has to move something.
Yes.
He has to move. I mean, the only possibility is to push the pawns. Because our idea was simple. We tried later on, if possible, to come on the other side, a4, taking b3, knight a5. He has to move back with the king. And finally, we get some Zugzwang position.
So a4 and takes.
A4 takes in b3 and knight a5. We can attack the pawn.
Okay.
So afterwards, you have to move back the king to c2 in a less active position. And then we have time to do something on the other side.
Yeah.
So all right, now he has to move something after king g6, king e2. He has to be quiet. Don't move anything. But as I told you, it's too late. So he takes, and after knight e4, we try now to give you one check in c3. And if you take the pawn from a2, it's completely lost for white, because the b pawn is too strong later on. We have chances to queen the pawn,
Yeah.
So what to do? So therefore, he'll be in Zugzwang. He has to protect the square c3, at all costs.
Yes.
So here, if he has time to move here and there and nothing happens, he has some chances for draw. But the position is already, very bad, because as you see, the pawn structure from white is very bad. So black has a good chance to win, and we'll see in the next moves. Knight a5, king b3, and now simply back. Now what to do? You have to move something. The only move is
to defend.
Knight f2, okay, to defend. Because if you push the pawn from g5, later on you move the knight and you attack the pawn with the king in f5 and you win. That is the idea, Because the king has to stay in d3 to protect the pawn from c4,
Yes.
If he moves the king, he's immediately lost, So now white has to do something. King g7, again, gives you the move, and you have to do something. You can't move the pawn, the knight, because you lose the pawn from g4. You can't move the king because you lose the pawn from c4. So Zugzwang. No, the only move is g5. Okay. And after g5, knight h5, again, you have to move something. What?
Oh, sir.
Yeah, if you move there, knight g3, and again it's Zugzwang. What to do, If you have to give a check in f6, and after king g6, again Zugzwang. You lose something, in any position you lose something.
Yeah.
Knight h3, the last hope, And now you go back, you control the square f4, very important, And now, again, he has to move something, and now you have time to take the pawn. Because you have the possibility to give a check in f4 and knight g6. And now you take the pawn
so
and is
check
winning.
here,
Yes.
and then knight g6.
Now you take the pawn in g5.
Yes.
And when he plays f7,
Yes.
you give check in f4,
And then
king somewhere, knight g6, and finish.
Yes.
And he resigned.
He took.
So,
and he resigned.
He resigned because if you move the knight, you lose also the pawn from f6. If you move f7, check in f4 and knight g6, and it's clear, So
Check.
you see, even at the highest level, is always the possibility to make a small mistake, and that's it. It's enough to win or lose the game. Very instructive, the game, even if it was not so spectacular compared with some other games, but played at the highest level, it's also very interesting to see what happens, at this level.
Yeah, this was a victory from a equal position.
Yeah, from equal position, because in one moment in time trouble, some
Made a unsound sacrifice.
Yeah, the sacrifice was not right.
Yeah.
But it seemed that the sacrifice was very good. He had that impression, and the impression was wrong. You see. But in time trouble, it could always happen, things like that.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
You're welcome.